All right, welcome to our last glue up session. So now we're gonna get everything assembled in this session. It's gonna be a lot of work, but we'll get there. So what I'm gonna need for this is obviously the ramp, both parts of it. I'm gonna need some wood glue for later on, so I'm gonna set that aside. I'm gonna need some tape with the wood glue for later on, I'll set that aside. And what I need right now is hot glue gun that's nice and hot, so let it sit and warm up for a few minutes. And some glue sticks. I'm also going to set the bottom aside. I don't need that right now. I have my bottom deck open up so I can get in here and glue the inside of the deck. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to glue along these inside curves, and I'm going to do it in 2 phases. I'm going to do this as much as I can get to from this bottom side. I won't be able to get all the way into that corner, but I'll do all of these bottom ones on all these both sides. And then what we'll do is we'll pull, once that sets up and hardens and holds the deck in place, we can pull the back off and then finish off all these internal joints the best we can. And then we'll get back in here and we'll finish down as far as we can on all these inside corners with wood glue. I think in the end it's going to work out great and look really sharp. All right, so let's get to it. First thing we're going to do is look at this side piece here. We want our deck to be really like attached to that side, not have a big gap in it like it does. I'm not sure if you can, let me turn around this way so you can see it better. Right now there's a big gap in here. I'm gonna have to squeeze this down as I glue it to close that gap down. Now, the deck, this part of the deck down here is gonna sit flush against the base. So we can't get any glue anywhere where it's sort of not curved at in through here. We can't get any part of this flat with hot glue on it. Otherwise, the base won't go on. So we're going to start our hot gluing like over here on the curve and go this way with it. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So if I'm setting this up, I'm going to hold it like this and I'm going to squeeze it together. And what I'm looking for is, I'm looking at this edge and I'm finding the place where the curve starts. Right about there is where the deck starts curving up. The rest of this is pretty flat. So right about there to this first tab, I'm going to start gluing about halfway between those. So I'm going to put my thumb about the halfway point. I'm going to grab the deck with my hand and I'm going to pull them together nice and tight. Now I'm going to run my finger along it to see if there's an edge there. So I'm going to adjust it up so that the 2 sides are really nice and flush. Just like that. Yeah, just like that. Oh, a little higher. I'm going to keep going until I get a really nice thing. Now I'm going to flip it over. And remember, I'm going to glue the curve part. So from my thumb forward is where I'm gluing. I'm not going to glue very far. I'm just going to glue right where my hand is because the rest of it still needs to get pulled down tight. So right there. And I'm just going to give it a second to set up. I'm going to blow on it to cool it off a little faster. I'll know it's cool and ready to go when I can touch it with my hand and it's not gooey. See, right now it's still sticky, so I'm still waiting. If I let go right now, that sticky glue is still soft and it'll just stretch it back out. I really want to let these first couple of them set up really and cool off a bunch. You can't overweight. All right, that one's ready to go. And now I'm going to go flip over and do the other edge. So I'm going to go from there's the end of the flat piece. That's where it starts curving. There's the tab, halfway, pinch down with my thumb, line up. Ooh, that was perfect the first time right there. Line it up best I can. Start by my thumb and work up a little bit. I'm using a decent amount of glue, but I'm not putting big globs of glue on because a big glob of glue won't actually help it. Won't make it any stronger, but what will it will just take a long time to cool. I am pressing the glue into the joint though. Like I don't want it to be like globs sitting on it. I want it to be like pressed into the 2 sides here. So I want glue to be up both sides of it. That's what's going to do the actual holding. And I'm just going to wait and let it cool. Again, I'm just doing like maybe a 1 inch, maybe 3 centimeter length here to glue it on to start with. It's still tacky and gooey, so I'm just going to hold it here and wait. All right, that feels pretty good. There's no stickiness to it at all. And now I'm going to try and do the same thing to these middle ones. So I'm going to come around this side. I can't hold it like this, but I'm going to push this down and squish it together. Again, I'm going to try and stay on this curved part and glue it a little bit. Now, once I get this middle one set up and stuck, and I have the outside, the middle, and the outside one done, then I can stop having to worry about waiting for it. I can just kind of go. And one thing to be really careful about is you don't want these middle ones, you don't want to like move it side like this, otherwise it's not going to line up with the bottom. You definitely want to make sure it's right lined up perfectly. And now it's pretty well set up. I think I can just, from this side here, just kind of push down. Remember, stay away from this flat part. Get up between, like, here's where the flat part ends, here's the tab, halfway is about there. Stay away from that part. Now I'm going to put glue on both sides of all the joints. And it's going to stay pretty well by itself. I don't need a ton of pressure here. I definitely don't want a ton of pressure, because what a ton of pressure will do is just knock these wooden bars out of alignment. And that's going to make getting the bottom piece on really, really tricky. Again, I'm going to let all those edges set up. That looks pretty good. I got a little hot glue here on this tab. I'm going to try and get it off before it fully hardens. Otherwise, this tab's not going to go in. Alright, yeah, those are good. Now it's pretty much locked in place. We still need to push it down the top some here and close those gaps down. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to grab it like this around the top here, and I'm going to try to use pressure from my hand and thumb. Ooh, man, that is tough to do. I'm going to start on the outside first. Now this is where I'm going to try and get, again, I'm feeling the outside edge here to make sure that it's as flush as I possibly can here. And I'm going to push this outside edge in as much as I possibly can for as far as I can. If you need to add more tape along all of here, you can add like a piece of tape along all these edges if you want. Let's just try that real quick, see how that works. So I'm going to take off a piece of tape. I'm just going to tape it more now. I'll go here, smear it on, and then I'm going to pull it really tight here. I'm checking for that alignment with the side face. There we go. I'm going to pull it really tight. And this time I am going to wrap it around that back side, because I'll pull it off in just a second anyway. Now it's still opened up, so I'm still going to use my hand to do the final close up on it, but it's pretty good without that. I'm going to go as deep down here as I possibly can with the glue gun, and I'm going to add glue all around the edge. So every bit that I can get to, I'm going to try and get to. Again, I'm going to let this set up, because this is the most important. The outside two pieces are the most important ones. They're going to set the tone for the rest of them being pulled in all the way. It's still a little tacky. I'm going to give it a few more minutes to set up. All right. Don't let it up early to kind of test it, because if you let it up and it stretches, it's ruined. It's got to be like dug out. So keep it, just be patient. Please don't rush this part. There's no reason to rush. All right, so that one's in. Now I'm going to put another piece of tape here to help tape this side down. I'm going to put it right in the middle here. I'm going to push this side in, make sure it's flush, best I can. Yeah, that looks good. Feels good. Pull it really tight. Pull that tape tight. Don't pull it so tight that's going to tear here, obviously, but pull it nice and tight. That's held pretty well, so that's most of the way in. So I'm going to go as deep down here as I can. I'm going to start putting glue all along this edge. Again, I'm trying to get a nice bead of glue in there that touches the bottom and the side edge as much as possible. Okay, that's a pretty good. And now I'm just going to hold it together for a few minutes here and here. Yeah, that feels great. And if you're like, this is awful and takes a long time, yes it does. But a good glue joint here will hold the deck down for years so it doesn't pop up on you in a few months later. Okay, and that feels nice and tight down there. Perfect. So everything looks good. Now I'm going to do the same thing on both sides of all the interior ones. And they're actually pulled together pretty well, but I'm still going to put my thumb right over it like this and push that deck down a little bit if I can. And if you're, whoops, I didn't get on there at all. Oh God, I just knocked my coffee over. What a terrible way to do things. I'm just going to be a champ here and keep going. See, we'll clean that up later. I'm going to put it back in there. Again, you don't have to get all the way up on this round because we're going to be able to come back and take the back off and get the rest of it done without the back being in the way. All right. Yeah, it's holding nicely. Okay. So I'm going to hit pause real quick because I am going to go clean up some of this coffee. Okay, I've got the coffee cleaned up. Let's get going again. I've got the glue. You can see I got that far in, all the way down this way and this way. Ooh, there's a little spot here where I missed on this side. I'm going to put some more glue in there. Again, I'm careful not to go too far down. I'm not looking to get into that flat space, anywhere near that flat space. This one maybe got too far. I may be in trouble with that one. Oops. Okay, I'll have to use something. I'll have to try and get that out of there at some point. So now the next step is to take the back off. So I don't really need this tape for the front deck anymore, but just in case, I'm going to leave it on there just to help support that glue until I get that fully glued up. Although it should really be fully glued up now. I'm going to pop the back off. And then I'm going to finish gluing as many joints as I can get to with the back off. And here I'm not trying to put a lot of pressure on I'm trying to wiggle it off instead of just like yanking it off. But at this point I definitely don't want to knock things out of alignment. So I'm just going to lay it down like this. I'm not going to put glue along this side because that's where the, whatever that thing, I can't think of what that thing is called. The little red the coping. That's where the coping goes. So I just want to go around the deck on this side and on this side. every side I can get glue into. Not down in that corner. Be careful getting too close to that corner. You'll block the coping and be digging glue out of that joint later. And at this point, I don't need to be pressing down on it to smoosh it in place. It's already really in place from all the other gluing that we've done. All right, so that's that. That piece of glue on. I'm gonna also get this inside piece. This one I'm gonna actually try and hold together. The top deck to the side pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and glue them right on the inside of all of them. And I can just see if there's a gap there, I'll know I need to push it down a little bit. Like right there was a bit of a gap. So I'm gonna pull that top piece off and just hold that top piece on for a second while the glue sets up. Well, that worked well. I'll hold it like this. That way I can push it down as I glue each one. Careful going too far like I just did off the page, because you still need to get the top back on in this spot right there. And I'm not getting too close to that corner in there either, because again, I want that coping to fit in that spot right there and not have to fiddle with it later trying to get it to work. I'm going to check all of them, inside, outside of each one. It's my last chance. I noticed here that my glue didn't get on this inside wall very well. So I'm going to come back and add another bead along that side wall. I'm just going to kind of glue it in there now. And same way on this side, there was kind of a gap there, I guess. So I didn't get glue on this inside wall. I'm just going to go back and glue a bunch on. And maybe do the same thing for the bottom. We're not going to get any art prizes for making this pretty. This is all about trying to get enough glue on there to do a good job adhering. That being said, don't go through 35 sticks just adding huge globs of glue everywhere. Stop at some point. Okay, that one looks pretty good actually. Maybe a little bit right in there. Okay. Now I'm going to try and get the back piece back on. Now, as I glue more and more pieces together, it's going to get harder and harder to get stuff to go back together. So that's just the nature of this thing that we're doing. But I'm just going to... Remember, I'm not pushing hard. I'm trying to wiggle things back into place. Once they're lined up right, they will just pop back in pretty well. I mean, that's the hope. That's the hope. There, that one's in. Okay, that one's in. Oops, there we go. Once you get them back in, pull them nice and tight and re-tape it. Because now we're going to glue the back on. This one's actually a pretty intense taping job here. I haven't quite gotten this. There it goes. Now it's going back in there. Take the time to get everything back positioned correctly, because especially this back piece, this is what's going to keep the ramp over. This is what makes the ramp square. And not all wonky and wobbly, is all these things hold everything 90 degrees to each other. Otherwise, you're going to get a super wonky deck. Like when you put it on a table, it'll be like wobble, wobble, wobble a ton, right? It is a little bit right now. That's only because the deck is pulling those bottom ones up. That'll be solved with the base piece later. Okay, so now our final thing we can get to. Now we gotta do the insides of all of these. We're gonna go down as far as we can, as our gun will let us get, and just bring out a thing of glue all along this inside edge. And we're gonna repeat that on this inside edge, this one, 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 all of them. You can get them. Do the outside two first. And just hold the gun in whatever awkward position you can to get as deep as you can. This is our final glue up for this one, so we're going to need to get as much glue in there. Not amount of glue, but length of glue joint as we can. So we want to get as deep as we can back there. Oh, also, stay away from the end here. I just went a little bit over the end. Your base is going to have to go on these tabs too deep. So make sure that you're staying out of those tabs. If you did like me and got a little in there, get it out before it dries. Or hardens, I should say, not dries. Get it out. Okay, that's good. And then just keep going around. Get as far in there as you can. Stop before you get to the tabs. As far as you can. Stop before the tabs. I think that's all of them glued up for me. And now the final glue. So I'm going to set this aside, give it like 2-3 minutes to cool off. While I do that, I'm going to prep my bottom piece. So first things first, I will need to find out which way's up with it. So, yeah, that sits nice and flat. The up part will be the shorter one goes on top. So there should be a little lip right here, and the bigger piece should be down the table. I'm going to turn it sideways because I'm going to put the ramp on this way. So I'm going to flip it over to the back now. So I want to be looking, the bottom side should be up now, the big piece on top. I'm going to take some blue tape, some light blue tape. I'm going to cover up all these holes here in the middle. Tape them up fully. I missed them a little bit on the end here. And I can actually unplug my hot glue gun at this point. I'm done with hot glue. I'm going to do that real quick so I don't overheat the glue. Alright, so all of that is good so far. Now one more goes there. I don't want to fold the blue tape up at all because I don't want to block the joint. I don't want to block any joints with it. I just want to cover up those holes. I'll show you why we're doing that in just a second. So I need one more page for that hole there. Again, I don't care about the end ones. I'm not going to put glue in those. So the reason we just did that is now we're going to put glue in all of these gaps, and then we're going to push our board down onto it. So I'm going to open up my glue. I don't want to fill it completely, but I'm going to put maybe a third full of glue. Because all that glue's got to get pushed out, so we don't want to put so much in where we have to push a ton out. Yeah, just a nice little stream of glue down there. If you can get it to where it like touches both sides and creates sort of like a bubble sheen on top, that's really good. But don't put tons of glue in there. You just want enough to get the sides maybe touched with glue. Because again, if you fill it up, it all has to get squeezed out, and that will be really hard to do. You have to sit here squeezing on it for a while before it to slowly squeeze out. It's a pretty tight gap. All right, so that's kind of what we're looking for. This isn't full. It's like a bubble. You can see where the bubble is breaking here and it's broken there. We just need a little bit of glue in there to make this all work. We're not going to worry about these ends quite yet. We're going to do that in just a second. And so this is going to go on like this. And this is where that alignment, if you made this, if you like bent this when you were gluing the hot glue on, you're pretty much screwed at this point. So hopefully you haven't kicked them off. Hopefully I haven't kicked them off yet. Now for the outside edges, these two sides, they need some glue on them, but not on here, because when we put it on this way, if we put the glue on this face right here, this piece is going to push that glue out and onto the table. What we want to do is we want to add glue to the inside of these tabs. That way when it hits the thing, this base will push the glue higher up into the joint instead of out of the joint. So before we do that, we also need to put glue all along this flat side. And here, we're not going to be skimpy with the glue. We're going to use actually a decent amount of wood glue down here on this bottom. We are going to keep the glue from being right on the very edge, but we're going to get it everywhere else in here. As soon as it starts curving away, we're not going to need glue there because it won't be touching the base anyway. We'll put some in between here. Again, not getting too close to the edge, but also, well, getting a little bit to the edge. There's a little bit of over glue there. We can figure that out. Because we do want a really good joint here at the bottom, really good strong joint at the bottom. All right, so now I'm going to wipe my hands off using the old carpenter trick of just rubbing your hands together. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to add, I've already have glue for all these middle ones in the joint already, but on the inside here, can you see this? Yeah, on the inside here, I'm just going to put some dabs of glue on the insides of here. And all the back ones get it. Move this out of the way real quick. Again, this excess glue that's on these is going to get pushed up into the inside of the joint and then along the outside edge here. Before we do this next step, I want you to grab some paper. You should have done this earlier. I should have told you earlier. Grab some paper. I'm going to put it all along this inside edge all the way out to the very end. I'm going to put a little bit of glue there. Again, I'm not squeezing hard. I'm just getting just a tiny bit of glue down on the wood. Doesn't need a ton. There and there. All right. So I'm going to grab some paper because I know I'm going to glue everywhere. Okay, and now we're just going to put it together. So make sure I'm lining it up correctly. Yep, this is the back, this is the front. This is where you just cross your fingers and hope that things line up well. That worked. So I'm putting it on like, I line up this corner first, and now I'll start lining the wood up, and I'm going to push it on, like, slowly over the course. That's where a little bit of convincing might be required. And you want to get this all the way on. So I'm going to tip it here, and I'm going to push down. Anywhere where I have a rail, I can push down hard on it to get it to go in. Not too hard though, you will push right through that bottom piece. So I'm just going to push down, try and be gentle with it. You don't want to break your deck at this point. And you won't know how much force is too much force until you break your deck. This piece is not going in. So this middle section is not going in, so I'm going to peel back the tape and see if I can figure out why. So this side pushes in pretty easily, this side doesn't. That means it's too far that way. I'm gonna grab me a metal ruler and I'm gonna reach in there with this. I'm just gonna pry it to the side and see if I can get it to line up with it. This one I twisted a little bit when I was doing the glue up with the top. Maybe I can push it from the inside this way. There we go. I got that part. Okay, and now I'm gonna actually put the tape back on so I don't make a huge mess everywhere. I'm gonna flip it back over and see if I can't finish pushing it in from the front, top here. And I'll know it's in because this front piece will finish up. It'll close up right through there. It's where we put all that glue. That's gonna be a super strong joint right there. That's gonna hold everything together for sure. Now, just to make sure that everything is together, I'm gonna do a quick test by putting it flat on the table and seeing if it sits flat. So before you do this, make sure your table doesn't have like chunks of glue on it, because that's gonna make it be wobbly, and then that's the table's fault, not your ramp's fault. So I'm gonna put it on here and see if it's nice and solid. So it's ready now to be clamped. We're gonna do one more clamping, and those clamps are gonna go right along the front here, just to pull them down to get them glued. And we're not gonna put a ton of pressure, but just enough to hold it in place while the rest of it sits up. And that's probably another half hour or so. So I'm gonna grab those clamps real quick, and let's do that. Okay, so now I'm going to start clamping. I'm going to use these little clamps like this and put one on the very end. We're just trying to push these pieces of wood down together and hold them temporarily. We don't need those blue clamps. We're probably going to end up breaking our ramp if we use the blue clamps. Put one there. And all of this is solid through here, so I don't have to worry about trying to get on one of the braces. I'm fine to do this. And then I'm going to actually add some of these bigger clamps to reach a little farther in. They're not stronger necessarily. I just want to reach a little farther in with the pressure. Actually, maybe I'm going to do it as close over as I can. Move. I'm going to put as many on here as I can. So there's no shame in what's going on. There's nothing wrong with putting a bunch of clamps on. Like, more pressure, more even pressure is what you're looking for when you're gluing. That way the boards are held nice and flat together. And slide. Slide there. Slide this one on there. Maybe go there. On there, and then one at the corner. Awesome. Now my two edge pieces, my two side pieces are a little wobbly. I'm feeling they're a little out here. So I will get one of the blue clamps and clamp across this face. And just look for other places where it may not be. Ooh, that one just moved in. Let's get that pressed in some more. If there's gaps along this back part, you could put a blue clamp like from on top to on bottom, and now just start clamping wherever you see there's a little bit of a gap. Just start clamping it to give it the best hold possible. I noticed up here on this side there's some movement here, so I'm gonna grab some more of these blue clamps and just go around, just clamp stuff. And yeah, that's it. Have a great one. I'm sorry it took so long to do this video. Best of luck to you. Keep clamping.